Just after getting a chance to review the UAB tape here, some of my thoughts. Tough going early versus their man coverage schemes. They really packed the box with playing some man free and some different fronts. And when you're in that position, it ultimately comes down to, and it's what I had a feeling but confirmed on film, we didn't win enough one-on-ones early in the game. One-on-ones up front in terms of blocking, which is what those fronts create. One-on-ones on the outside when you're throwing the ball out to the edges, because that's what you have with a middle-of-the-field safety that can break on balls. Extremely proud of the fourth quarter explosion. Started winning more one-on-ones. It wasn't a dramatic scheme change. There was a couple little routes that we ran a little different, a couple different choices in the run game, but nothing dramatic schematically. We started winning one-on-ones. And got to give the coaches and the kids a lot of credit to help them get to that point. That allowed our tempo to get better. That allowed us to get them on their heels, which then created more one-on-one victories at the end of the day. So happy with that, and we need to continue to build on that. Defensively, the big plays, you look at the 80-yard touchdown pass. We had a zone blitz on where we didn't execute it 100%. That's on us. It's one that we had run in the past, but we didn't execute it. That gave the quarterback some more time than he should have. When you're bringing 5 and you're playing the zone dog coverage that most teams in the country play, there's holes, and we didn't cover that hole up well enough. So that's what happened on that big play. On the counter for a touchdown where they ran I think it was about a 30-yard run. One of our D linemen got displaced, and our backer didn't go over the top, so they hit that. Special teams wise, you had the blocked punt, which Coach Hurd and our players executed flawlessly. Thought that we had a chance to get that, and Cameron Solomon, it was pretty. Put his hands right at the level you should. He went right to the block spot. It's a sign of another young player making an impact on our football team. The muff punt by Lucky, he just misjudged it. Where there was wind challenges, he got ahead of the ball, went to back up, which is something you don't want to do as a returner. At that point, if you've misjudged it and got ahead of it and you're that close, really should let it go over your head and just eat the field position and move on. Blocked field goal, lost a one-on-one. Our left guard got moved there, and again, it's on us to get his technique right as coaches. So those are some of the things that we have to continue to clean up. The slow starts, was certainly a topic after the game. You guys brought it up. I'll credit UAB. Offensively, they showed some formations that had never been on film throughout the course of the year. Took us a little time to adjust to that. That was some of the challenges in the first drive. We need to, again, as we build the program, allow our kids to get to a point where they can apply the rules of the defense and be able to align to anything. It was a crazy formation, unbalanced, where they only had one guard and then student body all on the other side, and had a toss play where they were able to kind of chunk some yards away at us. So as we get better and apply the rules of the defense, we can adjust before we get to the sideline, and that'll help stop that drive. Offensively, I thought we missed a couple opportunities to move the chains in the run game in terms of choices on the zone read. Potentially could have gotten 5-6 yard chunks, which again allows us to get to our tempo, which then leads to more one-on-one wins. Like I said already, we need to win the one-on-ones early. On another note from Saturday night, and I can't get into specifics, but we had maybe arguably this season the best group of prospects we've had, ranging from the 2015 to the 2018 class here with families and assistant coaches, and have had a lot of response from kids even after the way the game ended about how much they enjoyed the atmosphere and how promising that is. So I'm excited about moving forward from that perspective. A little injury update. Greg Howell is day-to-day. I'd list him as questionable for Saturday. It is strictly a hamstring injury. Sometimes those things, it's really individualized. You guys know that. It's just how his body responds. There was a little bit of swelling Sunday, so we'll take a look at him every single day. Bryant, Brown, Harrop, those three, as you know, are out for the season. Their rehab's going well and are on track for projected dates to be ready for the next season. North Texas, a little bit about them. Their defense, extremely active defensive line. Their defensive end, number 42, got some midseason all-conference. I can see why. Chad Polk, he's very active. He's their sack leader. Another guy that doesn't get, in my opinion, the recognition he deserves. They have a defensive tackle, number 95, named Alex Lincoln. He's fun for me to watch. Tremendous technician, great motor, disruptive. their D-line is an impressive group to watch. We have our hands full with them. Their DBs are very involved in the run game. They do a nice job. Their next leading tacklers after their Will Backer are both DBs. It fits in to what their scheme is, and they do a nice job of mixing base defense and bringing pressure. Offensively, number 9, Carlos Harris, he's legitimate. When you know, every coach watches film a different way. One of the things I do on Sunday night when I really start getting into it is I take every single offensive play and then I sort it from biggest gain to smallest so that I'm seeing their big plays in that order. And number 9 is all over that tape. And it's short passes that he creates big gains. It's deep passes where he goes up and high points the ball. There's reverses out of various formations. He's a very, very dynamic player, and we need to know where he is every single play to give us a chance to have success. 2 running backs, number 2 and 22. They're good backs. They're going to run through arm tackles. They're powerful. So we have a challenge there. And we have a 2-headed quarterback situation here where they've rotated both in. I don't see a huge difference athletically from one to the other. And that's not anything other than a compliment. They both can do things with their feet. I think they're just trying to get a handle on whether they're changing pace or they feel good about both of them or trying to figure out who their full-time starter is. I don't know. But both of them are challenging players at times, and we need to respect them. Special teams-wise, they blocked 2 punts on the year. They've got a kickoff return for a touchdown, and they've got a punt return for a touchdown. So we've got to be on top of our game from a special teams standpoint. Their blocked punts schematically were very impressive. They did some nice late shifts, got into some unorthodox, put you in some challenging positions, and we've got to be on our game with our punt team to deny them from being able to block a punt. So on a personal note, Coach McCarney is someone that I revere. I can't say enough how much he means to me. His energy, his passion, what he demanded out of me at a young age shaped what I have become in large part, as well as John Scladani, the defensive coordinator. I was a GA for him. There's some personal feelings in this game. I don't know what I'm going to feel when I walk across the field and shake Dan McCarney's hand at the 50. It's gonna be different because I think the world of the man, and he's been a mentor to me for a long, long time. Just a little bit shifting gears to the building blocks of what we're working to get done program-wise. I thought last night the energy in our Sunday night scrimmage and the performance, honestly, was the best it had been. There's freshmen like Andrew Soro starting to make checks that he couldn't even have said what they were a month ago. The young Stoshak brother is starting to come into his own. Nick Nicola, who's redshirting because of the transfer, is doing some nice things. Kelly Parfit, who's transferred from Central Florida and is going through his redshirt year as an O-lineman, is someone that shows a lot of promise. So I'm excited about that part of our program. It's going well. 2 examples of the nutrition and development emphasis. Nick Nicola, since he walked in the door, has gone from 238 to 254. Ray Ellis, who is now quasi-developmental maintenance, he went from 266 to 280. So those are just 2 examples I wanted to bring up of things that are going well for the future of the program. So kind of hit 4 things. I hit a review of UAB, gave you an injury update, talked about North Texas and some of the things going on within the development. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Well, the thing that, of course, jumps out when you look back at the game is not being able to stop a team 12 straight runs that set up the last field goal. I mean, you guys are next to last in the conference in stopping the run. And they always say when you go on the road, you got to run the ball and stop the run. So
that's right.
That's obviously going to be a focus here the next couple of games.
Without a doubt. We've got some young defensive linemen playing that are getting better each day. That last drive, we were in position at times where they were able to get 5 or 6 on us is disappointing. We've got to get better, and we've got to get better all the way around. When you're at that position where you have a chance to get a stop and win the game, and that evening we could not get it done. So we've got to get better. You're right. It's stopping the run. You talking about the positive performance, the explosion by the offense? Yeah, I think the biggest lesson to learn there is if there's a team that everyone in the stadium can see that they're in man free, and I mean they almost looked like a punt block. I mean they had a deep safety in the middle of the field. Guys walked up close to the line of scrimmage. At that point, you're going to have to win some one-on-ones. I mean, we've got some kids that are capable of doing it, and I'm talking run game and pass game because the run game, when they're going to walk up and use that kind of a scheme, if you have a win up front or you get a guy out of position and displace him, it has a chance to split and get up on the middle safety very quickly. So the biggest message there from an offensive standpoint is to win the one-on-ones. If we can do that early, like I said, it gets us into our tempo, and then we're able to create more mismatches because they're not set or they're not in the call that they want that's perfect.
Their last drive of theirs, did they run that play that Marshall ran so successfully with holding tackle? Was that part of that series?
They did run that a number of times. Our kids, because they ran it out of a different formation, the response was different. They ran it out of a single width tight end position, so it was our end's job to fold in there, which he was doing. We just need to get the stop for a no gain, not a 4 or 5 yard gain.
So
So
there was improvement,
without a doubt,
but not.
but not good enough yet.
We keep hearing that they're missing fits and missing execution. We're not going to get into the season now. Is that what do you attribute that to? Is it football IQ that they're not ready or not? They mentally just haven't seen it enough yet, haven't done it enough yet, or?
Well, as you look at the game from Saturday night, let's take early in the game. New formation, one that we had not seen all year, one that they had not shown on film. Applying the rules to a very unorthodox formation is a next step when you're building a program. To the kids' credit, we got that toss under control. We really didn't have a ton of misfits on Saturday night. We didn't execute a blitz. We weren't exactly in the right spot in our drop, and they threw it to their best, most dynamic football player who scurried for an 80-yard touchdown. The positives, I know you look at the stats and all those things, and you factor in Nebraska and Alabama into those statistics as well, which is real. But you look at a 4th down stop after a sizable punt return, that's a win. You look at a number of stops in the second half that put us in position when we had to have stops. There was a point there at 28-7 where you got to get some stops. You have to stop the floodgate. You have to fill the floodgates, stop the flood. And they did that. Proud of them for that. So then our offense has the chance to go down and score 3 unanswered touchdowns. The last drive, we gave up too much, allowed them to get into field goal position.
Well, but I guess if you had seen the stuff in the first quarter and then you adjusted to it, which is, I think, a fair statement, was it then maybe fatigue at the end of that game that allowed them to, if you were in the right spot but didn't make the plays, that fatigue?
Sure. Combination of that. So now you're getting into depth. You're getting into program building is really what you're getting into, right? Young guys developing, guys being in the program for a little bit of time or they've run the same system for more than a year or two. That's developing a program, right? Where, okay, this formation, kick the front, check to this coverage, done. So then all you're doing on the sideline then is confirming instead of teaching. Right now, when we're in the building stages of a program, which is truly where we are, you're developing depth. Some of the depth that we had to create, we had to pull off the red shirts of, I think the count's at 8 or 9 right now, true freshmen playing. So we're in that phase where we've got to continue to build and get better this season, but know that we're building for the future also.
So would you classify these as growing pains?
Yes.
Andre said that last drive, they lined up in a formation that forced him to go out and cover the number 3 receiver. Here's your most dynamic, is that true? And if it's true, here's your most dynamic tackler, kind of taken out of the run fits that he wants to be, that you want him in. Is that something that you had to try to adjust to, or what happened there?
No, that's common. When you have 3 detached, your Mike backer has to step out of the box, or you're going to have to go to man-to-man. And going man-to-man with number 1, you got a chance. He ran by every single team that they played, including, is Mississippi State still number 1?
Yeah.
He was behind Mississippi State the whole game. So to say, let's go man-to-man on him and make it obvious, that would be irresponsible. And then you'd be asking me that question. So when you have 3 removed while your Mike is out of the box, he's still in the fit. So that's nothing uncommon.
How much would it just help the defense to get turnovers, which has been something you guys have lacked for the most part this season?
Well, it wouldn't hurt us. Right? I mean, yeah, we need to do everything we can to get turnovers. And again, program development, and this is real, okay? The more you're in a system, the faster you play, the easier you adjust, the quicker you bend your knees, the faster you respond to your keys, the more turnovers you get.
Slow starts.
Mm-hmm.
If you're seeing new stuff constantly, can some of this be attributed to this being your first year as a head coach and you're still learning either preparation or game adjustments or things like that?
I think potentially you have to take a look at things that I'm learning throughout the course of the year. All of it really falls on my head ultimately. You know, when you see a pattern, you have to look at the head coach and say, how is this pattern being created? What can I do to help these kids be in position to win those one-on-ones against man-free? You know, and that's something that I evaluate every single day. Like I said, when you're against that type of a defense, it comes down to one-on-ones to be able to move the chains. Defensively, we got to make sure that the details are so well ingrained to all of our players, whether they're coming off of a red shirt or a older kid learning another new defense with a new staff, that we can adjust and be in good position to everything.
Have you made any changes that you can share with us from maybe week 1 to week 9, substantive things that maybe you're doing differently or you're asking your coaches to do differently or something like that?
Let me process that question for a second, Chuck. Part of the deal is to stay the course as well, to be consistent as you are in a building phase. So there's been no knee-jerk panicked adjustments from that standpoint. I am a believer in a developmental program, which is a big part of why I brag about some of these things and the things to come, and recruiting being a huge piece of it, without a doubt. But to answer your question directly, as I process things, we've tweaked a few things here in practice as the season is going on, where we work against the scouts earlier in practice so that we're at full tempo, and then put the individual piece towards the back end. A lot of that was from our catapult study, being at full speed, full tempo early in practice so that the timing of things are as close to game day as possible. That's an adjustment we've made. On game day, there's been some things that I want to make sure we continue to work towards our identity. By that I mean, as a tempo offense, let's be a tempo offense. Let's get lined up quickly to create stress, which we're getting better at. You can see signs of that the last several games. At times, Saturday night, we were great at it. At times, we weren't as good as I would have hoped. So that's something we've emphasized even more the last month, which simply stated, let's keep working towards our identity, fellas, which is develop our players, continue to recruit, be a tempo offense all the time. Even if we're not running the play immediately, the illusion is there. We may or may not. So let's just keep building our identity and making sure our kids understand that. That's what we're working towards.
You talked about your developmental players. One guy that we really haven't asked you about in a long time is Jason Driscoll.
He's doing a nice job. He had a good night last night. Greg Hankerson did some of the developmental stuff he asked to, because he's anxious to play football, which he doesn't get as many reps as a 2 quarterback, and he did a nice job. But Driscoll's really throwing a good ball. He's got good command of the offense. He holds meetings with some of those guys. He'll meet with receivers, and his development is coming along the way we'd hope.
Do you know which hamstring it is for Hal?
I don't. I think it's his right, but I'm not sure. Yeah, pretty sure it's his right. Yep.
And will that just be something that you want to, do you want to ease him along early on in the week and then maybe try to see if you can go half speed or full speed?
Yeah, I'll rely on the medical staff from that standpoint, and take their advice every single day. But yeah, I mean, we'll work him back when he's safe enough to go ahead and go and play to his capabilities, where we don't have a fear of injuring it further. Then we'll make that decision to play him. It is. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a particularly troubling injury for running backs and wide receivers. It takes their burst away, correct?
It is, yeah, because to get that's their advantage, right? That's what they need, is to be able to get to full speed as quickly as possible, acceleration. So it is. It's not an easy one to come back. Like I said, he's questionable for this weekend. We'll see how it goes, but I'm optimistic because Buddy is genetically gifted. So genetically gifted players recover faster, but we're going to move along as if we didn't have him, and if he is available, he'll be a bonus.
I mean, if those type of injuries tend to linger, is it possible that he couldn't see the field again the rest of the year?
Certainly is possible. I think that's doubtful. I think that we're hopeful that he'll be back after the bye week. The bye week after North Texas certainly helps his cause, but
Is it more likely that he plays that week than this week?
it is.
Mm-hmm. Say, how much do you weigh that factor, knowing that he's going to get an extra week regardless of what happens on Saturday?
Absolutely factors into where he is on Saturday. Yeah.
Tony Moore seemed like a different back almost the fourth quarter compared to the first.
Saturday night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that just part of the whole process that everything was working so much better by the end of the week?
It was. Some of those runs that he bounced out towards our sideline, product of the offensive line winning their one-on-ones. Tony made a good choice to bounce out to the outside. But I'm proud of Tony and his attitude and the way he's handled everything that he's been through this season. He did a nice job in the fourth quarter, you're right.
Do you sort of, I know this season's sort of been difficult at times for you, but do you sort of enjoy what each challenge sort of presents week to week? I mean, I know, Marshall, it's sort of a unique play.
Mm-hmm.
I know Saturday you mentioned, all of a sudden, you having rare mistakes on special teams. How fun and how difficult has it been to sort of, not say put out a fire each week, but sort of, adjust and readjust and sort of change as each week goes on?
I've enjoyed every week. It's difficult to lose. There's no question about it. Being 3-6 is not where we want to be. As you know, we're a few plays away from having a much better record. We all understand that. But to see the big picture from 10,000 feet and to know where we're going is exciting. And to see our kids resolve and to go in on a Sunday meeting at 2 o'clock, Sunday team meeting after a game, and to see the kids appropriately disappointed after each loss. You get concerned about players getting used to a loss. These kids are not that. They play to win every single week. They prepare to win every single week. It's all the indicators along the way that show you're building a program that I enjoy that challenge. More specifically, like you're talking about, Lucky's arguably our most dynamic weapon. I think we'd all agree that he's one of those, if not the most dynamic guy. He made a mistake, misjudged the ball, didn't get it handled for us. Seeing him back behind and seeing his disappointment and going over as the head coach and saying, Lucky, let it go. We need you. And to encourage him and to see him bounce back, I love those moments. Those are the moments that in 5 years we're going to say, remember when? Remember this? We overcame that. We almost did this, and we saw signs that we're going here. I've enjoyed all those challenges. I've enjoyed coming in at halftime and going from both sides of the ball to discuss where the challenges were and what can we do. Both sides. I've enjoyed this year from that standpoint, and we will all be better for it, myself included.
There's this. I know, Saturday, you said you quickly sort of mentioned that. Here's a scenario. It's now. We have to win 3 straight to get to the Super Bowl. How much will you be willing to emphasize that moving forward this week up until Saturday, or is that something where you want to just focus on getting the first game of the 3?
We'll really still remain with the fact, and we're best this way. I'll address it once, really, on Tuesday, and probably address it again later in the week. But we're at our best and give ourselves the best chance when we're focused on having a great day. We need to have a great Tuesday, period. Much beyond that, then we're starting to distract ourselves. The more distractions we can limit and the more we can continue to build depth, the better off we're going to be, the better chance we have at a victory.
Reemergence of Bussey in that game. Was he doing something different? Was he an issue with Martise?
That's a good question. No, it was to Bussey's credit, and to give you an understanding of when you're put in a position where you need to play some of your younger players, this is stuff that you run into. And he did really well early. The playbook started to mount, classes started to mount, midterms started to show up. He had a freshman wall. He's gotten through that freshman wall now, and you can feel it and see it in practice. So he put himself in position where he earned more reps to get a chance. And he made some nice plays. Now, we had an option, if you remember, that went towards their sideline, and he made a cut to make a guy miss to gain about 10 yards. That is really impressive. So to his credit, he worked his way through the freshman wall, and he's starting to perform like we expect Bussey to.
So he's it looks like he's jumped above Martise.
Right now he has. But that battle rage is on. Yeah.
If Howell is limited to running,
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that probably means more carries for Jay Warren this week.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely a fair assessment. And Jay's attitude has been great, so we're excited to get him back in the mix, and his ball security in practice has been outstanding. He's someone that we'll look to use quite a bit this week.
His ball security practice was always pretty good. I don't remember him doing a lot in practice. Is that true, or is that?
It would show up here or there. Yeah, it would. I mean, not overwhelming enough to say we're going to have a big problem here, but we've been telling the scouts to every chance they get, knock the ball out, punch the ball out, rip the ball out. Jay's been good.
I know you mentioned that Greg was probably the best back that sort of goes well with the tempo. How is Jay one of those guys where he sort of fits tempo more, so that could be an easy transition for the offense?
Compared to Greg or compared to Tony?
Both.
Jay's conditioning is pretty good. He can handle a tempo set, so to speak. He can get up there quick. I think that's been a challenge for Tony, but Tony showed Saturday night that he can handle it just fine, because those last couple drives that Brian talked about, we were moving, we were getting up there fast, and so yeah, I think Jay's well suited, but I think Tony's fine. Yep.
As mentioned after the game, that he had part of the struggle at the beginning was that it was cold and the ball was slick and he couldn't really get a good grip on it. And I think he could face similar conditions out in Dallas. How do you prepare for that? How do you get somebody ready for that?
We'll get some buckets of ice water on the field and make the ball cold and wet. Yeah, honestly, we will do some wet ball drills, because you can see the weather report. And the biggest thing is, if whatever they're going to wear on Saturday, they need to wear in practice all week, be it sleeves, be it gloves, whatever it may be. So it's not different come game time. That's the biggest thing, is to get through the week, and we'll do some wet ball drills. And the wind was a factor too there in the first half. That wind was really coming against us in the first quarter and didn't help our winning the one-on-ones challenge.
As a South Florida guy that did a lot of coaching up north,
Mm-hmm.
do you buy that whole mentality that it's tough for warm weather teams to win in cold weather? Or do you see instances where that may have played a part?
I've seen teams that it didn't bother them at all, and I've seen teams where it really got in their head. When I was at Wisconsin and we played against Miami in a bowl game in Orlando, it was cold for them that night, and we had just come from 5 degrees or whatever it was, so it was warm to us, but it appeared to affect them that night. This is 2010, I believe it was, 9, 10, somewhere in there. I've seen some warm weather teams come up to the north and have no problem. I think the biggest thing is we're not going to be able to practice in the cold. We can't create that environment. So, hey, if you're going to need to wear sleeves, put on sleeves. That's really about it. And just keep them moving around on the sideline. I mean, because once you get running and moving, it's no problem. It's when you run, move, sweat, stop, that it can be challenging.
Throw some AstroTurf on a hockey rink.
There you go.
As big a factor as the wind was the other day, did you consider taking the wind in the first quarter and giving them the ball?
We did talk about that, but we just felt like, let's get the ball. We thought we could do some things offensively. Let's get the ball in our offensive hands. Let's try and get a fast start. That's really what big part of taking the ball was. We had a really good week of practice on offense. So we had confidence. I mean, there's a lot of decisions that you guys have seen me make through the course of this season because I have confidence in what we're doing. Fake punt, a bunt, six fourth downs in game a couple weeks ago, the 4th and 3 at Marshall. Those are decisions because I believe in where we are. We got to perform at a more consistent level. That's really what it comes down to, is consistency.
To go back to that quick start,
Mm-hmm.
I know you have the most trust and the sort of faith in Tony from an overall standpoint on
Mm-hmm.
quarterbacks, but knowing that how much Greg had played those last 2 games,
Yep.
is there any consideration to start Greg, knowing how productive he was in those first 2 games?
Not at that point. We were going to go another week or so because that first carry, it's amazing how it can change someone and add pressure to them, unnecessary pressure to a true freshman. But he had been performing well in the role that he was in. Like you said, we trust Tony. Tony ran the ball well Saturday night. So I felt good about going into that role and keeping Buddy where he doesn't have to worry about the pressure of being labeled the starter.
Yeah, because he's mostly come in sort of late first quarter, early second quarter.
Second, third series is kind of what we targeted, yeah. Yep. Depending really on the rep count. If we had a long drive, then it would be second series. Short drive, third series.
So if he doesn't play on Saturday, then Jay would sort of fall into that role.
Most likely.
Second, third.
Yeah, most likely, yep.
You mentioned their quarterback, the two-headed monster. Do they kind of try to get both of them in early and then see the hot hand is and go with that? Or do they switch off and on throughout?
It does kind of feel that way. Number 6 was in early against UAB. They had a fumble recovery for a touchdown, and then next play, he threw a pick for a touchdown, and before they could blink, it was 14-0. And that's tough. That's a tough start, right? So I think that probably is it. I've been watching a lot of it through cut-ups. So I haven't watched the game yet. I watched the game later in the week. So right now I've been looking at it through situations more than anything.
Do they make sort of, I don't know if you've seen this yet on the cut-up, but do they make sort of a differentiation of what the role is where I've seen some teams where, a guy is
Clear runner and a clear.
A guy is a clear, sort of midfield versus short yardage or red zone.
We have looked at it through that, and no, you don't see a distinct difference. You really don't. Now, there was one time, I think it was against Indiana, but not sure, where 6 came in, ran a quarterback draw, and then was back out. So they do seem to have a little bit of confidence in the way 6 can run the ball, but 5 can run it too. I mean, 5's made some good plays with his feet. So I really believe it's a little bit along the lines, best as I can tell with what Chuck said, which is who's the hot hand today, who's going to help us win.
You mentioned way back about 2 hours ago that the read option, there were a couple of misreads for you guys. And had a couple of bigger games.
Yeah.
Is that always the quarterback? That if there's a misread, is that the decision that's always on the quarterback?
There's times that we'll call it, and there's usually a adjustment in the blocking scheme where we call to give it or call to keep it. But the majority of the time, it's the quarterback's read. It's just option football, reading the end man on the line of scrimmage, or there's times we put his eyes elsewhere. But yeah, it's on him. And the zone read's been around for a little while now. It's not like it's this new phenomenon. It's been 5-10 years at least, and defenses know how to make that read more challenging, square, kind of fast, not just crashing down. When it first came out, the ends were just running downhill or not. It was one or the other. And now there's enough gray being built, we do the same, where it's not as easy of a read. And hindsight's always 20/20, when you have the vantage point of being able to slow the film down. And I told Quez this. I said, I could pretend that I could do what you can. There's no way I could. But you could see here where if you pulled the ball and kept it, that you'd probably get at least 6, 7, 8 yards. And he's like, yeah, I get it.
How strong of his game is that facet, the read?
Really good. I mean, you think about the Western Kentucky zone read he ran, and what I believe was, it was the last drive where he gained 15, 20, 25 yards. That had been set up all game, because they were that cat and mouse game. I mean, we got caught in it against Marshall. Really, we did. But that game they had been getting a little faster down to the dive, and then perfect time, Quez pulled it and hit him for about 25, 30 yards against Western Kentucky. So he's good at it. He's usually dead on.
How much has that been a factor moving forward? I mean, do you want to sort of build
His ability to run the ball?
Yeah.
Mm.
If you wanted to build on that, given he's been, getting more, he's further away from that right shoulder injury that he had earlier in the year.
Absolutely, yeah. He's so productive for us, and thing that I really gives you more confidence in calling it is he knows how to take a hit. He knows how to roll away from big contact, and that gives you confidence in the reduction of him getting injured. So yeah, it's a big part of what we do. I mean, it's a powerful weapon.
Given the running back situation, is it almost a sense where you say, hey, if it's there, go ahead and take it more so than maybe a week or two ago?
You talking about just zone read stuff where he's reading the end man?
Or just having him, or just calling specific strategic plays for him to run.
If that might be an argument if you didn't feel good about Tony and Jay Warren and what they can do for us, and really Bussy and Martise. And so no, I think we'll continue to move forward with him reading it the way it is and us mixing in some called keeps or called gives here or there based on blocking scheme.
How in sync do you feel like you and Brian Wright are at the beginning of games?
I think we're in good shape. I do. We go into the game with a plan, with what our thoughts are. Brian's done some really great things this year. He really has. With the 600-yard game a few weeks ago to the explosion, but I understand your question. We go in with the plan. He executes and runs what the plan is. And, again, at the end of the day, man free, you got to win some one-on-ones.
Is it more so of a scripted sort of first drive that you guys come up with, or is it more or less situational?
Combination of both. There's a script of plays that factors in the situation. First down this, second down this, third down go to this. So you're working off of a grid there early in the game, which is really pretty common. Yeah. But then you factor in weather and some things like that could tweak in, 100-mile-an-hour wind in your face. It maybe tweaks where your script is.
Or seeing a sort of defensive front that you
Yeah.
that you hadn't seen yet.
Absolutely. Yep. All good? All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.